I'm Ali Jaffe, and I'm here with Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of Reddit and author of Without Their Permission. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So your book, Without Their Permission, what is the message? You're doing this huge tour through many different colleges, and you're talking to millennials. What is the biggest takeaway for aspiring entrepreneurs?
It is that now is the time, especially while you're still in school and have the freedom to fail, the freedom to make, the freedom to do stuff without having too much responsibility. Now is the time to start taking initiative. Whether you are interested in starting a company, or whether you're interested in starting an Etsy store, or whether you're just interested in learning how to do video editing, the tools that are available to you now and the resources that are available to you now, both for learning as well as sharing great ideas, are vast. And the internet is the playing field for all of us to learn from and share on. And I want as many millennials, as many people as possible contributing and sort of making it as awesome as possible.
You say now is the time for students to be getting started. You and your friend, how did you balance coming up with this company, getting good grades? You still got good grades all through college, and
Pretty
having
good.
a social life. What's the secret? We're trying to find that balance.
Well, what's the thing? It's the rule of three. You can either have, what is it?
Sleep, good grades, social life.
social
I think
life.
that's the
Well,
pick two.
You already that. I think it's funny. Of course, I don't remember my GPA because, spoiler, after you graduate, no one asks you what
Thank
your GPA
God.
was. So Steve actually had a much worse GPA because he was the kind of guy who could just he could put off all the work until the last minute and just get it done well enough, and could kind of flake on everything else because he was a smart dude. He had a job offer lined up from basically his first day of college. So he was set. I obsessed far too much about my grades, and I did spend time with my friends. So I guess I wouldn't say I had the best social life because I spent time with those friends in the library. So maybe that's probably where I lost points in that rule of three. I think what is happening now all across the country is students are finding ways, whether it's through their curricula or whether it's just on their own, to bring the act of doing into their education. So, universities, these settings are amazing because we can do so much thinking, we can do so much discussing. More and more programs are building in doing. Because whether you're an engineer who wants to build her first robot, or whether you're an artist who wants to launch his first Kickstarter, these things are possible now. And literally were not even possible when I was in school just 8 years ago. And I think that's where they dovetail so nicely. And that's where students are able to take advantage and not have to sacrifice too much of social life or sleep.
So you talk about this word disrupt. What do you think? Do you think that there's a new path to success that maybe doesn't include the standard ladder that people used to have to climb?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we know that better than I believe any other generation because we have grown up pretty much only knowing uncertainty. In the consciousness of millennials, there's not a lot of the institutions we were sort of told to trust in and believe and don't worry about it, everything's going to be fine, have turned out to not really be so trustworthy or so sound. And I think that's an advantage because we learned a lot sooner than every other generation does that life doesn't have a path, that there's no, I love saying life is not a paint by number. And we already know this because a lot of the things we were told, like go to school for 4 years, take on that student loan debt, and don't worry, there's a job waiting for you, not so true.
Yeah.
And so we are forced at a much earlier age to start sort of relying on our own ingenuity and having to create careers instead of finding them. And I think the internet in particular facilitates this so well. Because it is a resource. It's fascinating to think, and YouTube didn't even exist when I was in college. You could listen to it. What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? You can find a world-class lecture or lesson or community of people doing it online right now, instantly, who are willing to share whatever that craft is that you want to learn. And so I think building this kind of mentality where you look at problems and see a way to hack a solution is something we are really good at, and the internet facilitates that really well. As a developer, you don't memorize every function in the world, you just learn how to find it. You learn how to use Google or Stack Exchange. And then when you start applying that to other things, if you want to be a filmmaker, you can find inspiration online much easier than ever before. And if you want to learn how to use a new piece of software, you want to learn from some master, there's probably a great tutorial on Vimeo or YouTube, or there are resources there that are available. And when you start seeing things like that as opportunities to learn instead of, I can't do that, which I think was an easier mode for previous generations to get into because knowledge was hoarded, knowledge was guarded and locked up. It puts us in a really good place to, I think, hopefully reach the maximum potential of awesome.
And you just said that a lot of ingenuity comes addressing problems. Mm-hmm. What do you think are areas of need and industries that mm-hmm. people should be trying to get in on right now?
Cat photos. Not enough cat photos being shared.
Yeah, not enough of those.
That is vast. There's so many. One of the reasons, in the book I talk about my own entrepreneurship in tech, but the most interesting stuff to me is about what's happening in philanthropy and entertainment and the arts and activism, all these other areas, all these other fields that historically haven't seen a lot of disruption from software and the internet, but it's happening now. It's started happening only in the last 5 years, and there's much more to come. So it's probably it's those areas that are on the cusp, industries where they're sort of hacking solutions themselves using available software, or maybe even just using technology that's not really as good or as efficient to solve their problems, but you can see that they're hungry for it, they're ready for it. One of the great advantages to not trying to make the next cat app is you're also probably going to have fewer competitors, right? Because there aren't as many bright young minds who are looking to solve problems in the agriculture industry with software, or problems in advocacy or social justice with software. But those are real problems that need to be solved, and so the people who are going into them are going to, like I said, face less competition, which is in some ways detrimental, but for all intents and purposes, let's say it's helpful. At least it should be encouraging, and they can have a huge impact before anyone realizes, oh wow, I can't believe this was. It will look back on. Look, I bring up Kickstarter all the time. Because creatives didn't, artists, people who wanted to make creative projects didn't really have a good mechanism to fundraise for them 5 years ago.
Right.
And now you can't talk to an artist without them mentioning some Kickstarter they're dreaming up. And that's great. That was something that today we look at and think, how can we live without? How did we live without this? And 5 years ago, no one was doing it. A bunch of artists with great ideas were just twiddling their thumbs trying to raise money from uncles and friends, and then they couldn't because it was inefficient. So I think those are the ones that particularly interest me. But look, find something you're passionate about. Find something that doesn't feel like a burden to study or to obsess over, because you're going to have to study it and obsess over it if you want to pursue it.
You've had some of the most amazing jobs. You co-founded Reddit, Hipmunk.
Pizza Hut, cook.
Well, that's actually what I wanted to ask you about. So your earlier jobs, you worked at a deli, you worked at Pizza Hut. Yeah. What's the value of those kind of jobs that has really fundamentally set you up for your career? Oh,
well, food service is an invaluable one. And my first day was a dishwasher. By day 2, I was working as a cook. And then, 6 months later, I finally went to my boss and was like, I want to try waiting tables, because that's where all the money was. And, all the money, waiting tables at Pizza Hut. But it was there on the front lines when you interact with customers. When your payday, you're making $2 an hour, right? Your payday is entirely derived from tips. Right. You learn really quickly that if there's a problem with the customer experience, that it's on you to solve it, or you're not getting paid. Those lessons in food service have just been absolutely invaluable. I would recommend everyone spend at least 3 months, hopefully longer, but at least a few months working either retail, especially this time of year when people are total assholes, or food service, or just in the service industry more broadly, because it really, you empathize. I hope I still carry this empathy with me. I'd like to think I still do whenever I'm sitting in a restaurant or dealing with someone in retail, but it's those lessons that, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or you just want to be, a good person, that are really, really.
Has there been a moment with Reddit that, I know that you're no longer, hands in, but that you've kind of seen what it's become, and just said, wow, like I can't believe what I started has had that much impact?
I mean, I feel that way every day. I mean, I met people, this is the third event today. I met people this morning and this afternoon who came up to me and said, hey, you know what, I discovered a community on, R Flying. It's a flying subreddit. It's a community of pilots and aspiring pilots. And he told me, he was like, this was amazing. I got my pilot's license and I was seeking help from these random people on the internet about flying and everything. I was getting, veterans with 20 years of experience helping me out. And I was just some random person, and it changed my life because it helped me get through pilot lessons. And then you meet someone else who says, our Fitness and our Lose It helped me lose 30 pounds and change my life because I found a community of people who were excited about fitness and being healthy again. And when people are saying, like, literally, it changed my life, it's mind-blowing. But the thing to realize, and the thing I've long remembered and stressed, is that none of what happens on Reddit is the software. It's the people. It's the fact that there are human beings who are self-organizing, a group of people who love flying on our flying or love fitness on our fitness, who are just helping one another out, who are sharing knowledge and ideas, and sometimes just random jokes or cat photos. But like, that's people. It's all these tools are just reflections of the users. And so it's like, if I invented a hammer, I would feel amazing, right? Like, I invented the fucking hammer. That's great. But how useful is that hammer until you actually see what it can build, what it can construct? And like,
nail.
Yeah, you need nails, and you need someone talented enough to build something with it. And so I feel good as someone who helped make a kind of digital hammer. But I can't feel nearly as good as the architect who built the amazing home using that hammer. I guess the laborer who built the home, whatever. You have to be able to at least take a step back. I mean, a better one, Gutenberg. Oh, this is getting a little grandiose, but like, the printing press itself is an amazing tool.
Right.
But what changes the world is not the printing press; it's the stuff that was printed. It was the people who actually started printing out. I guess the first ones were the Bible, but all of the printed word and ideas that eventually changed the world. So that's sort of how I perceive it. And I was not trying to compare myself to Gutenberg. But it's just the dislocation it's the separation between, being sort of proud of helping build a tool versus, the amazing stuff that actually changes the world, which is just people using it.
Right. So then finally, I have to ask you,
Okay.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I would rather fight one horse-sized Quaker. One horse-sized Quaker.
I like that.
Can. Because
I like
why?
that.
Because they're pacifists. And
It wouldn't be much of a fight.
the Quaker would just give me a hug, and we'd call it a day. And I'd be like, wow, you're a giant Quaker. And he'd be like, I am. Would you like some oatmeal? The end.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you.